Since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, women have been coming forward with harrowing stories about difficult pregnancies that have put their lives at risk. In the past week, we learned about a woman in Kentucky who is now suing the state for access to an abortion. Jane Doe is approximately 8 weeks pregnant and wants to terminate, but cannot because of the state's near total abortion ban. We don't know much about her pregnancy, but her attorney says that her embryo no longer has cardiac activity. Doe has filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of herself and any other person who is pregnant or could become pregnant in the state of Kentucky. Now, that lawsuit was filed a few days before Texas's Supreme Court ruled that another woman, Kate Cox, who sued to terminate a non-viable and life-threatening pregnancy, did not qualify for a medical exception to the state's extreme abortion ban. Now, these stories are clearly shifting the conservative narrative about who seeks abortions and why, so it is not exactly a surprise that Republicans do not want to have anything to do with it.
Senator, are you supportive of the Texas Supreme Court's ruling in the Kate Cox case that prevented her from getting an abortion after she learned her fetus was not viable?
Just call her press office.
I actually have for 2 days now, and I still haven't received an answer.
Thank you.
Joining me now is Jessica Valenti, author and writer of the Abortion Everyday newsletter. Jessica, thank you for being here. Initially, when I was told that there was a soundbite of Ted Cruz refusing to answer the question, I thought it was the one from earlier this week. But no, this is still the guy's position days later after he's had maybe time to think about how he would answer this question. And to me, it's so indicative of either a right wing that never considered that women who want to be mothers would have to deal with abortions, or they just not thought women would never come forward with deeply personal stories. I wonder how you sort of assess this current position that you see these conservatives in.
I mean, it is really interesting. They've had 50 years to prepare for this moment. They knew that these were going to be the consequences of their laws. And yet when faced with the actual consequences, they're literally running from facing questions. And I think most importantly, from facing the women behind these stories, right? There is a reason that Republicans right now are talking so much about Democratic extremists, about the abortion industry. They don't want to own up to the fact that their political enemy right now is individual women and their families. It's not a good look.
Yeah, I mean, and also just from sort of a political strategy standpoint, putting forth an abstract idea against a deeply visceral, personal, emotional story from an individual that could be your own neighbor or mother or sister, you know which one trumps in the end in terms of the court of public opinion. I got to ask you because, you know, it's not just access to abortions. It's now that states like Texas are trying to restrict interstate travel that is in many cases, in the case of Kate Cox, the sort of last option they have to terminate an unwanted pregnancy or a pregnancy that they wanted that they cannot go through with because it poses a risk to their own lives. In Ireland, I think it was 2012, Savita Halappanavar died of sepsis because she could not terminate a pregnancy that was non-viable. That changed Irish public opinion and effectively overturned one of the strictest abortion bans in the EU. And I wonder how you think these individual stories, both the ones like Kate Cox and Jane Doe and the ones that inevitably are forthcoming when there are women who cannot leave the state, are going to change our national dynamic over this issue.
I think they already are. I really think that they already are. And that's why you see Republicans running from them. And I don't think that the women behind these stories, the women who are able to come forward, right, like it takes a certain amount of privilege to be able to share your story with the world and be open to harassment and all sorts of things. These women are not going to let them ignore them. I spoke a couple of months ago to a young woman, a 21-year-old in Texas, whose fetus had developed not at all above the neck. It had developed without a head, and she was still denied an abortion. She had to travel to New Mexico, was too afraid to tell any of her friends, her family. And what she said to me, I get emotional thinking about it. She said, I just want Ken Paxton to look me in the eye. 21 years old. I just want Ken Paxton to look me in the eye and tell me why I had to go through this. They're not going to let these people forget.
Yeah, the suffering that effectively these Republican men are putting women through is so piercing and so deeply felt, I think, by people who are, across the country, which is why, Jessica, in Florida, right, there's a push to get an abortion ballot amendment in the state of Florida, right? It has, according to the Florida abortion rights group that's just sort of organizing this effort, 150,000 Republicans have signed a petition. I have got to imagine that the more you hear these stories, and they're not stopping anytime soon, right? In all likelihood, they're likely to get even more horrific and more gutting as time goes on. The more you're going to have Republicans stand up and say, what we did here is wrong. And the question is, at what point Ted Cruz or John Cornyn or any of the other Republicans who just say, call my press office, will actually acknowledge it. I mean, I just wonder, is it this year? Is it next year? Is it next month? Do you have a thought on how quickly this is all changing?
I think they're going to continue to ignore it as long as they can. I mean, you're talking about Florida. Over half of Republicans polled in Florida said that they would vote for that ballot measure tomorrow. And that is why they are trying to keep ballot measures away from voters, right? They don't want them to get to voters because they know once that goes to voters, they've lost. And so I think what's becoming clearer and clearer is that they don't care what voters want, and even if they're Republican voters.
Yeah, it shouldn't surprise me, but their desire to fall on their swords at the cost of women's lives, people's lives across the country, just in the name of sort of political championship, is really a staggering thing. Jessica Valenti, the indispensable newsletter that we all read with great regularity, Abortion Every Day. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thanks.